Hey everybody, it's Gregg Majewski, your host of Room for Seconds. On this week's episode, I had the pleasure of interviewing Matt Wampler, the CEO and founder of ClearCogs. You're going to dive into numbers and understand at a completely different level the importance of managing your food costs and how a proven system is able to help you get a bigger bottom line. Don't miss this episode if you want to learn how to make more money. Matt, thanks for joining Room for Seconds. I can't wait to hear about your past. I know absolutely nothing about where you got your start in the restaurant industry. So why don't you give us a little bit about where you got started?
Greg, thanks for having me, and happy 2025, kicking off the new year.
Yeah, can you believe it's 2025? God,
no.
We're old. So I saw my wife handed me one of those Instagram things that said, people that were born 75, 76 are shocked that you're closer to 1950, the same distance you were from 1925 as you are today from when we were born. It's like, oh, I'm that old guy now.
You know what? So I love those. So I think it was like a year or so ago. My wife turned 36. She's like 9 months older than me. So for 9 months, I got to say, honey, by the way, you're now closer to 50 than you are 25.
Doesn't go over very well because my wife is 3 weeks.
Yeah, sorry,
Paige is 3 weeks older than me, and I continue to tease her every year that she's closer to the next age than I am. And so this year, when we'll turn 49, I'll be like, "Oh, you're almost 50."
It's a great one. Great one. This is the one reason why you need to marry a woman that's older than
you. All righty. I'm sure that's the only reason people are commenting on right now, but okay.
Well, to answer your question, getting back on track of where I came from, actually, it's funny. My story's not that dissimilar to yours from what I've heard. Young kid fresh out of college, and Jimmy found me and got his hooks into me early. So I somehow got convinced that I should be part of the Jimmy John's family and ended up buying a failed Jimmy John's franchise from some guy who'd run his location into the ground and needed to get, off the lease. And I was the 21-year-old kid who signed my name on the dotted line.
And the rest is sort of history, because if I remember right, you won Operator of the Year at one point.
Yeah, I didn't. I won 2 of the 6 awards, though. Highest sales increase and highest comp. So it wasn't bad.
That's right. They couldn't give it to you.
I'm still bitter about it, but I do have the 2 glass trophies. I didn't get the gold Rolex, but I got 2 pieces of glass right up there.
And you didn't get the Hummer.
No Hummer either. You know why? Ironically enough, my food costs were too high. Swear to God, maybe that's where this all comes from. I got slighted as Operator of the Year, and ever since then, I've been trying to make up for it by getting food costs down.
And by high, what was your food cost back then?
Oh, probably 28, 29%. But
that was really high, though.
It wasn't fair, right? Like, look, I ran a campus store for my first one. We were selling nothing but club sandwiches and gargantuans and no sides. So we had a naturally higher food cost. And back then, it's kind of crazy. They didn't really look at your product mix to determine whether your food costs were good or bad. It wasn't like your actuals versus theoreticals. It was just, oh, you're running 28, 29. The average is 24. So you must be doing something wrong.
I would still say you were doing something wrong.
I was doing a lot wrong. It's 22 at the time. I was, there were a lot of things that I look back on, and all the smart guys be like, how do you work smarter, not harder? As the 22-year-old kid, you just worked harder, and your food costs suffered sometimes.
Okay. So you learned and cut your teeth at Jimmy John's, great company, as we all did, or all us cool kids. And now you went out and completely pivoted, got out of the restaurant industry and decided to go into tech. What the hell makes you qualified to go into tech?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Thank goodness I've got my co-founder, Osa, who is qualified. No, it was interesting. So, post the Jimmy John's world, I went back and got my MBA. and started to get into this whole data science analytics world, and ultimately got into programming, and it just blew me away. I mean, I look back on it, and in reality, when you're running a restaurant, even a franchise location, you're kind of the CEO of your own little $1 million business. I think I had 5 by the time I sold them. So I had like 5 little businesses doing, $5 million a year in sales. It was a multi-million-dollar business with hundreds of employees, and we ran the entire thing off of Excel spreadsheets and guessing. And it blew my mind that this technology was out here to help make better decisions, use analytics to help inform people, systemize things, and yet no one was doing anything. And so, we went and talked to a bunch of restaurants and found out it wasn't just a problem at Jimmy John's, it's a problem across the industry. And so we dug in to do something about it.
And what is that thing? That was your plug chance. You got to get with me here. Sync.
Look, at the end of the day, there's probably 20 or 30 decisions that really matter in your restaurant, right? I mean, there's 3 numbers that really matter. It's revenue, food cost, and labor. And so if we can go suck in all of the data that you currently have and turn that into those key answers each day, you're able to add percentage points to the bottom line. So let's make it tangible. You're a barbecue restaurant. You're probably smoking your briskets the night before, right? And if I smoke too much, I'm either throwing it away or I'm sending it home with the staff. If I smoke too little, I've got angry customers. I'm missing out on revenue, and not only just revenue that next day, but probably the guy that came in for brisket and didn't get it is less likely to come back. So you're hurting revenues in the future. By sucking up all that data and looking at the day of the week and the time of the day and the weather and what are you doing on the marketing side, and analyzing something like 100 million data points just to answer that one question, we're able to tell you the ideal brisket level for tomorrow is 8 briskets. Throw 8 on tonight. That's all we do. Take all of your information, synthesize it down to those key answers.
So now, being a smart ass franchisee, why the hell would the franchisor just not give me those tools? Why would I have to go and pay for something else?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think
I get asked it all the time.
Yeah. Well, the cynical part of me says that, look, there's a mismatch of incentives. Franchisors make their money off of royalties. They care about top line revenue. It's the same reason you've got a loyalty program, and, they're making transactions move faster. Anything to increase revenue, they're prioritizing. I don't think they don't care about the bottom line and 4-wall profitability. I just don't think it's been the top priority. But we've kind of woken up in this world with rising food costs and rising labor and a price-sensitive customer where you can't just raise prices anymore, right? You need to finally get down to the fundamentals and increase profitability, be more efficient. And now's the time to make that move. And so my answer is franchisors, it hasn't been a priority. It's very much in the franchisee's best interest. And now all of a sudden the technology is there to support it.
So not all franchisors obviously think that way. We worked for one, or was a part of a system that obviously wanted the franchisees to win. But the mentality is not always, as you said, focused on where it needs to be. The oversaturation of stores, everything of that nature helps drive the bottom line down. So as a restaurant owner, even a mom and pop outside a franchise system, whatever, managing your cost is so important. Probably more important in a 1-store deal than if you have 3 or 4, because you have one store that usually kills and the other ones are and you think you're smart. But with that 1 store, when you got to survive, managing your costs is the most important thing that you can possibly do. So can your system work for 1 store, or do I have to be a multi-unit guy?
You got to be a multi-unit guy, unfortunately, or at least be part of a brand that has multiple units. Well, and think about it like this.
But you're on Toast now.
We are on Toast, and we've got
one store, but a 1-store guy can sign up for it then, correct?
They can. So we do have a freemium plan for the independent restaurant out there. And one of our core missions is, how do we democratize AI? So how do we take that?
Do your sales job for you too?
Yeah. You know what? By the way, you're hired.
So your system does work for a 1-store. If you're a Toast platform, go to Toast and sign up.
Yes. You can go to Toast and sign up.
Your dad is going to be disappointed here.
It's good stuff. Well, I think it's important to note this. I mean, I think that when you look at what you guys do at Craveworthy, right, getting over that hump, the 3 to 5 stores to how do you get to 15 or 20, right? That's a lot of systemization. What you guys did at Jimmy John's early on was put together that playbook, right? Like that playbook for success. The reason that I was successful, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. You guys had done all the hard work. All I had to do is come in and execute. I think that where we really fit in, our core niche is how do we take that playbook and systemize it with the right numbers each day? And until you have that playbook, you can't really build a true AI operations management system. We can do some helpful tools, do sales forecasting and menu item forecasting. And that's all stuff that we're doing for the independent restaurant on toast. The vision, though, is, as we continue to build this out with the enterprise brands, build that AI operations management system, how do we incorporate more of that into our independent offering?
Okay. Good recovery. I'll give you that.
I love the grading mid-conversation.
So as you're going through and as you have put this into restaurants, what does managing your food cost and managing your projections and your par levels and, know what you're actually supposed to do? What's the data show that you can save?
Yeah, I mean, it's typically between 2 and 4% that we see. I mean, obviously it depends on every restaurant concept and how inefficient they are, but it's meaningful numbers. I mean, we started working with this group out of LA. There's a bunch of ex-Cheesecake Factory guys. They know what they're doing. I think they're doing something like, $1 million per 100 square feet, like massive volume, killer operators. And they're like, we don't need your system. But they're, those tech forward, like we'll give it a try. Literally, first location, first month, they save $6,800. That's 80 grand to the bottom line. Like that's life-changing money for most restaurants.
I'm Gregg Majewski, and I've been a multi-unit operator for 26 years. I know how great it feels owning the right franchise brand, but choosing the right franchisor feels even better. At Craveworthy Brands, our hospitality-driven culture sets us apart because we're invested in your success at every single stage of your journey. We're operators alongside you, paving the way forward to give you a head start on greatness. Start your franchise journey at craveworthybrands.com. It's huge. $80,000 is everything to a restaurant. I mean, you don't have to worry about the major oops that goes on that you have to fix an air conditioner. If you manage your costs properly, you have that cash sitting there when you need to. Obviously, if your restaurant's worth a damn. If your food sucks and everything else, you're going to be out of business. Close your doors.
Well, somebody once told me, show me a restaurant with a line out the door and I'll show you a restaurant that's going to go out of business in a couple of weeks, right? Like just because you have lots of customers doesn't mean that you're going to have a healthy profit margin. You got to have the economics of the business down.
100%. Like that's the most important thing. And most restaurant operators tend to forget that. You look at the lines, you look at the Instagrams today, you look at everything else that's going on. You're measuring yourself not on the bottom line and not on the things you control, but more about the influencers. And it's a sad state of our industry.
Let's have some fun here. Who has been one of the best managers you've ever worked with? Tell me about them, how they manage. What made them a great manager?
He was an ass. He sat there and weighed every portion and the crumbs off the slicer, because he was bonus off of his profit because, we gave huge bonuses based on if they hit food and labor. But this guy was a Nazi. He was like soup Nazi when he was on the slicer. It was hysterical. I'll get in trouble now for using that reference, but that's what it was. And, you left a little bud at the end of a ham. He was all over you.
And so, it's so funny because you talk with people from the industry all the time and you get some from the hospitality side. And it's like, how do you create hospitality and that experience? That's not the personality of somebody that I would think really creates that experience, right? They're just good at running the business side. Is that fair?
Without a doubt. Yep.
So I think one of the real missions that we're after is this, like, the manufacturing side of the business, that analytics, the workforce planning, how do we divorce that from the hospitality? Because AI is never going to create the experience, and they're never going to train your staff and make your customers feel welcome, right? But it sure as hell is good at doing the supply chain management and forecasting and analytics. And, if we could take all of that off the plate and optimize for people on the people side, like I think the industry would be much more well suited.
So do you think the restaurant chief helped have actually invested back into labor to drive sales, or did they just eat the profit?
I think that it's investing in the right labor, right? I think that it's making the lives of the people that are, being a general manager in a restaurant today is an incredibly difficult job. The amount of things that we ask a restaurant manager to do, it is drastically harder than most white collar jobs, right? So how do we alleviate that burden of all the things that we're putting on them and be a little more profitable in the process? Because if you're living in a world of abundance, I think it's better for everybody.
Yeah, and people don't realize how hard it is to be a restaurant manager. It is impossibly hard. They have to be an accountant, a HR manager. They have to do controls or a factory worker at the same time. It's a little bit of everything. The job is not easy.
Well, the whole industry, it's just waiting to see who's going to come in. It's very reactive, right? So like when you're sitting there stressed out about like who's going to walk in the door, that's a stressful place to work. If you can divorce that and be proactive and not have to worry about it, it's like, hey, I smoked 8 briskets. That's what the number is. Like it's going to go right today. How do we make more days go right and less days be, stressful, reactive?
So being a founder, what's the hardest part about your job?
It's sitting in podcast interviews.
Especially with me, I agree with that.
No, it's great. I've loved everything about it. I would say the problems are different on the technology side than restaurants. Like in restaurants, they always felt like your phone was the devil. Like there was always an urgent problem that you needed to deal with. It wasn't always important, but it was urgent. The toilet's backed up. Sally didn't come in, right? Like you're just waiting for that like call. And then on the tech side, everything is really, really important, but none of it's urgent. You're making decisions today for like 6 months from now, and you're waiting to see how they play out.
Okay. I would have actually thought you would have said raising money.
That's it's a new skill set I'm building.
And you've done good.
We have, it helps that our product works really well and our customers love us and we're saving a lot of money and we're continuing. I think at this point we're in like 5 countries and over 100 brands from, publicly traded down to, 5 little barbecue restaurants. It's been a fun journey. That's helped a lot.
The barbecue restaurants you keep bringing up. You talk about barbecue a lot. Is there something we're missing?
You know what? I always look for good analogies. I think people all understand barbecue. It takes a while, and everybody's walked into a barbecue restaurant, and they're always out of something, right?
Have you been to New York? I don't think anyone in New York has been to a real barbecue restaurant.
Oh, Dino Barbecue out of New York, one of our wonderful customers. They make great barbecue. Red, White, and Q. Go on down to New Jersey. They've got some killer barbecue.
Uh-huh. I'm going to go and say, yes, I've not tried either of those, but as a Southern person, struggling with that one.
Where are you from originally? You're Southern?
Chicago, but my wife is from Nashville. And so the South is where I've learned barbecue. So it's hard to tell me anything's better than Southern barbecue.
I grew up in Champaign. We had corn everywhere. Like we had Famous Dave's. So I'm not the best arbiter on barbecue. Speaking of which, how many barbecue restaurants? Do you have barbecue yet? Is that in the portfolio?
No, and it will not be. It's the hardest one in the ever. You can't. Barbecue is so regional specific that you can't say what is good barbecue. What is good barbecue out west is different than the South. And even in the South, Memphis and all that are different barbecues from Southern barbecue. There's so many different flavor profiles that you can't win. It's so personal. And that's why think about the chains that have actually survived. Famous Dave's is probably the biggest one that has gotten to any size, and yet it never got to a huge number. And no one has come in and duplicated it because it's impossible. Now
Yeah.
somebody's going to prove me wrong, but it's not an area that I want to play in. Love it. Would love to have a regional chain one day just because I like the food, but no, I just don't see it as a national brand coast to coast.
How many brands are you up to at this point?
15 brands. I would say there's 8 growth vehicles in the system today.
Oddly specific, growth vehicles.
So what we define brands is the brands that we want to invest money in going forward, as the other ones are getting worked out, trying to prove themselves and see where they're going.
Yeah.
We take gambles. We take something because we think we like it. The food's great. The brand has potential. We put it in a field that is, hey, let's see what happens. Let's put our systems in, see what we can do with it. Then the growth vehicles are the ones that we've done that to already, and now we're ready to pump the gas into them and see where they go. And so we have 8 that we're very confident can be, between 300 and 700 stores at one point.
So when you go to buy a brand, and I'm curious about this, is it the business, like unit economics of the brand, that makes it attractive to you? Is it being in the right place at the right time? This is where the market's going. Is it the right team? What is it that ends up attracting you to buy some of these, or is it just value?
It's a combination of all of the above, and we've done all of them. So we've had value buys where we've taken a gamble and a swing at a 30 unit group that I bought for $1. A $43 million asset I bought for $1. Your dad would be proud of me for that one. And that was one that we saw potential of, but we have to turn it around and we had to fix it. And we did that by exactly what you've talked about, reducing food, labor, and drawing 15 points to the bottom line in 6 months. But that was more of a gamble, a value play. Fresh Brothers, which was the latest deal, was because I think delivery is still very important in meals today. And I think adding a couple unique items to a pizza brand to make it just not pizza, and adding the pastas and all that, there's a player in there to be a higher end pizza delivery concept. Domino's and all that have their low level quality product. And I think there's a niche above that can go national. So, we look at a little bit of everything. It depends. For sure, I'll take another gamble like Untamed and those 2 brands for $1. I'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, it depends on how much money they're losing.
Yeah, they were losing, but they're not now. Thank God.
You're getting good at triage.
Yeah, that's the hardest part about what we do, that everyone thinks, oh, you buy a brand, it's simple. And, we spend a year to 18 months going through and fixing everything and cutting out the stores that aren't making money or breaking leases and closing restaurants. And, you've got to take steps backwards before you go forward. And Wing It On is a perfect example of that. I was cocky when I bought that brand. I thought we could get it to go instantly, and found out that there was a lot of little things that had to be sort of tweaked and ready that we lost. It took us a year longer to get it to where now I can say to the people that I know, hey, go buy this. It's right. It just took time.
I've always had an utter fascination with the multi-concept owners. I remember, I think I had like 3 Jimmy John's at the time, and this pizza place across the street, great pie, went out of business. All the hardware was there. And it was one of those, fight between the family. Like, it wasn't a business thing. And it was on sale for like 10 cents on the dollar. And I so wanted to buy it, but running different restaurant concepts. It's not like if you run a restaurant, like you can run the other one. It's like I know Taekwondo, therefore like I know Jiu-Jitsu. Like, I don't think they're quite the same. So I always managing across different brands seems just tough.
And I completely disagree. I think it's the same. So if you put the systems and procedures in place, the way that every restaurant operates, and how you clean a bathroom is how you clean a bathroom at every restaurant. So there's bones of everything that's identical. And if you write those systems the same and follow them, it's no different. You just create a different product. It's like a manufacturing company where you did a different job from GM and Ford, and you're making the same type of part for both of them, but it's different because one's GM, one's Ford. You can go and do those on rinse and repeat. Restaurants are no different. It's the same process and system over and over again. And now I'm starting to sound exactly like Jimmy. But it's over and repetitive that you continue to do this. And if the system is right, operating what you're selling to the customer doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, what it sounds like is a guy who's got good systems, because getting the right systems in place is the hardest part.
Yeah, but I've been using them now for 26 years and have tweaked them for every brand I've been at and would never change them. You know, I wholeheartedly believe that the restaurant is made by the systems you run, and the food and all that is just the second component. You got to have great food. That's a given. If you have shit food, you're out of luck. You're done. But if you can't systemize it so you can get the next high school kid in to produce it the way it's supposed to be, then you're screwed anyways. You might as well be closing your doors.
Amen to that.
So Matt, what else do they need to know about ClearCogs?
Yeah, I would say this. Look, we're, as an industry, heading towards more automation and more AI. In the next 20 years, you're going to have robotic kitchens. You're going to have AI running a lot of this. And, you know, that's a scary world to just jump into. It's not happening tomorrow, but there are some real practical things that we can be doing today to start getting used to AI, start seeing the advantages. You know, these are low dollar risk reward decisions where you can go in and do something like prep and production, where we're going to systemize what it is you order every day and what you prep every day. Start getting used to using these systems, because the winners that are going to be around in 20 years are going to be the ones that learn how to wield these new technology tools.
That is a great answer. Must have rehearsed that answer.
You know, every night in the mirror. Actually, I don't think I've ever actually said that before, but
that was actually good. You may want to write that one down and use that one.
You know, I'll just have to go back to this podcast and listen to the notes.
Matt, where can everyone find you, and where can they find more information about ClearCogs?
Yeah, so look, we're all over social media. You can look us up. We're on LinkedIn. We're very active. Please follow us. You can find us at clearcogs.com. And as Greg would, you know, be remiss if I didn't say, you can, if you're a Toast customer, you can get on the Toast marketplace and enable ClearCogs and have a free version today.
That was the plug we needed at the beginning. You learned.
I'm not here to plug. I try and not plug, Greg.
Yeah, but when someone sets you up, you got to take it.
Yeah. You're right.
You know, because again, at the beginning stages, the single operator, the small group, gonna keep your lights on, dude.
Yeah, easier said than done.
Yes, I know, but you need every bit. I want you to have the $2 billion sale.
Yeah, you and me both. So you know what? You know who really wants the $1 billion sale? My wife and our investors. Actually, I got to tell you, I think you would identify with this somewhat. The people that took a risk on us, you know, 2.5 years ago, the friends and family that put the first money in, I so want to make them proud. Like, they took such a risk on us. And like, the closer you're going back when we get to raise this next round and be able to say like, hey, your investment's up 50%, you know, in the last 18 months. That's so freaking exciting for me.
Yeah, that's the best feeling in the world. When you got people patting you in the back because you find out your price is up and you're like, yeah, you're up. I'm raising at a different value, but you ain't getting crap yet because we got a long ways to go. But they're happy the fact that, you know, the price is up and you're moving forward. And you guys have. It's been, and you'll continue. The product's good. And as you guys continue to develop, it will get better and better. So
we happen to be in the right place at the right time. It's just, you know, this has been 30 years overdue for us to get back to focusing on four-wall profitability. And, you know, again, if Jimmy John's wanted to do this back in the day, like, the technology just didn't exist. You know, if it weren't for the Facebooks and Metas and, you know, Amazons that invested so heavily in, you know, machine learning and AI, like, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing.
Agreed. Thank you, Matt. It was a pleasure. Hey, viewers, thanks again for supporting Room for Seconds. If you found this episode inspiring, interesting, or any bit informative, please hit that little subscribe button down at the bottom so you never miss an episode. In my 26 years in this amazing industry, I've been blessed with incredible mentorship. This show is my way of giving back. Follow me on LinkedIn, search Gregg Majewski, on Twitter, @Gregg_Majewski. If you still have room for more, visit our website at media.craveworthybrands.com. You'll find more videos, shows, notes, blogs, resources, and an easy way to get in touch with the Craveworthy Brands team. I'm your host, Gregg Majewski. Thanks again for tuning in to Room for Seconds.